All right. You're good to go.
You know, this man has had more airtime on this channel than I have in the last 2 weeks. David Cutcliffe is the best.
That's dangerous to say in both aspects. Number one, y'all will lose ratings if that's the truth.
No, it's not.
Number two, I can only be second best because I'm sitting next to you. And that's a fact. Is that not a fact? Right?
You may get a check in the mail.
No, it's real.
When you got out of coaching, did any network approach you and say, I want to hire you?
No, I never heard, and I'm going to be arrogant. And I was a little surprised that I didn't, but just because of my quarterback time.
The guru stuff. God, I mean.
Yeah, but you know what? God has a way of protecting you, and I have found that with this job, I can make a difference, a real difference, hopefully, in college football, and I get more time, rightfully so, with my wife, my children, and my grandchildren.
Yeah.
And when you start getting gone sometimes too much, and I talked to Archie about that a little bit. Archie chose never to really be gone a lot. He stopped that broadcasting thing. I talked to Peyton about it before I quit coaching. And one of the reasons you don't see Peyton is that he loves being a dad and a husband. He's
pretty
committed.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, and that's real. I mean, they obviously did the little deal on Monday night, but did you see where they both did it from?
No.
They're
home.
Yeah.
Did they?
Yep.
Yes, home. And that's really, as I always learn from exceptional people, I've learned that it's not about us. It's about our people, our families, and the people that love us the most.
We will run that show in its entirety within a couple of weeks. But one of the things that was really cool, I had a bunch of friends of mine there. There were a group of 10 that I went to BGA with. And 2 or 3 of them said to me, I could have listened to that all night. One of them said, I could listen to David Cutcliffe all night. I didn't know when to stop it. If I thought people thought that, I'd have run it till midnight.
We would have just camped out, put the tent over us.
But all 3 of you on that stage have told me that you had fun, which kind of surprised me.
No, George, I mean, your craft is this. You got a good voice. I hear all that, but that's not your real craft. Your craft is putting the people at ease that you're working with and comfortable, and us opening up. And that's your real craft that separates you from others in the industry, because I do a lot of interviews, and some of them I want to throw something at before it's over with. And then when you have an eye for people, when you get into Watson Brown and Tony Barnhart, and they don't get any better than that. And Philip, if he had been there,
would have been the exact same thing.
And I know that was hard on Philip in a couple of ways. One, just to agree to do it on Zoom, and you feel like the odd man out. You're not sitting there amongst us, and the crowd really can't sense you. And Philip's so smart and does so many things great. That was a little tough, and I felt that a little bit during that time. And then it's a tough time with everything that's going on in the Tennessee world. Sure. So I felt for it.
You said something about him that night that I wish I'd followed up on. You said something about the Philip Fulmer list of things to do with your team.
Right.
You remember that?
Checklist.
Talk
Absolutely.
a little bit about that.
Yeah. Philip is a line coach. See, people don't really understand what that means. The offensive line coaches 5 people in complete detail that don't have a statistic. Offensive linemen don't have a statistic. They're harder to coach. There is not a play that contact doesn't occur. So through the years, Philip developed an offensive line checklist on coaching them. I worked with Philip early on. That's what I was doing. and it was so detailed, and his ability to motivate those folks, to evaluate those people, um, coach every aspect of it: footwork, hand placement, leverage, finish. That was how he went about coaching our football team. And so there was nothing missed, but it is also in that checklist. It was nothing about individuals or individual statistics or any goal associated with it other than how do we win this football game? And boy, did we win a bunch of them there in that run,
I want to ask you about the guy before Philip, because after all, I am a Lake Tansy Johnny Majors tennis champion.
Hey, I like it, man. I didn't know that.
So they had us sit in a golf cart and take a picture with him.
I got some of those at home.
Well, he knew who I was. He goes, "What are you doing here?" I said, I'm spying for Watson. So what was, because clearly if you win a national title back then at Pittsburgh,
yeah,
you couldn't be stupid. What were some of his best traits that you took?
Well, a lot of that, what I just mentioned, Philip, we took from Coach Majors, is that accountability of your position checklist. Coach Majors was a great practice field coach. He used the term coach on the run. Nobody wants a dissertation when they're on the practice field. You got meetings to teach, coach on the run. And I loved that. I really bought into that. And I used that my entire career, that something happens every play. You coach the good, you coach the bad, you reinforce good, but you're coaching every play. You're moving, and you're not stopping a player and having a long conversation. And I even tried to better that through my career by naming things like with offensive linemen, angles and tracks that you take are so critical, because as the ball moves, defenses move. So I read one time where Wayne Gretzky, the great one, said the reason he became great was he never skated to where the puck was. He skated to where the puck was going to be. And so when an offensive lineman was going to where he thought a defender was, I didn't have to have a dissertation. They knew when I said, Wayne Gretzky. And so I got coaches all over this country now saying, Gretzky, go where they're going to be. And Coach Majors was right. And I think the on the grass part of it, he was phenomenal. Now, he was hard on his coaches. I worked with a lot of different assistant coaches during that time. Coach Matthews,
we've had some stories.
Yes, but Coach Majors, often I would go by. I would be angry at something he had said to me at practice or embarrassed me. And I would look at the film and I'd get angrier because he was right. So, and he wasn't always right, but often he was. But he was a great football coach. He also cued this for me. And I've, again, taken off with this to a whole nother level. Say what you mean and mean what you say. And there are not many people in our lives that we can say that about. Hey, I'll call you tomorrow. How many times have you heard that?
Okay. Talk to you in a week.
And what he said was this in dealing with young people. Say what you mean and mean what you say. If you tell them to hustle over here, they need to hustle. If you tell them to stay low and you allow them to play another play high, you're losing credibility. Don't ever tell somebody you're going to play them more and then not play them more. You're losing credibility. So from a football coaching perspective, I corrected assistant coaches a lot based upon that. Say what you mean and mean what you say. We had a thing at Duke by then. I wanted everybody in every drill to start with their hand behind the line, not on it, behind the line. Every coach was held accountable because that's the first part of winning a football game is alignment. A team that doesn't align well, and really defense in baseball, basketball, But in football, if you don't align well, you're not going to win consistently, particularly if you don't have the best players on the field. It's one of the paths to winning a game where you're not the best team on the field is alignment. And I can watch film. I used to watch slides even when we had film, knowing what the defense was going to be. And if they line up poorly, I knew we were going to put them in the half 100 club. That's what I used to call it. We would hang 50 on them, man. So I'm not boring you with all of this stuff.
No, I love it.
But I thought I tried to take the best parts of Coach Majors, which there were many. And in my opinion, it's sad that he went to Pitt and his percentage dropped below the qualifications to become a Hall of Fame football coach, winning percentage.
Yeah.
He's a Hall of Fame football coach.
Sure
folks.
he is.
And I have had some strong conversations with those folks about him and that. There's another one, Bill Dooley, who was never given a cush job. He's right there at it. Come on, go follow Bill Dooley's
He
career.
never had Georgia.
Right. He's a Hall of Fame football coach. But I that's gone. I'm not going to win that argument. Ken Donahue can't go in because he's an assistant. Lifer is an assistant. Tell me there's a more gifted, qualified Hall of Fame football coach. You don't even know who Ken Donahue was.
No.
But Coach Donahue was Coach.
Thank you for
Bryant.
saying that, by the way. I'll give you $5 later.
But Coach, Google him, but he was coach. He played at Tennessee, but he was Coach Bryant's defensive coordinator. Coach Bryant used to fire him all the time during games. And he would go sit on the bench until Coach Bryant rehired him. And that's true. Yeah.
I want to try this one. I have said this on the air before. I've picked out 4 people. If I had an 18-year-old son that was going to play on the college athletic level,
yeah,
I would want him to play for either you, Watson Brown, C.M. Newton, or Dave Luce, because I'm positive in those 4 people that he would be treated right.
Right.
Where did you kind of learn that that's also important? Wins and losses get you hired and fired, but treating people the right way leaves a legacy.
Yeah, I think legacy is always more important than ego or what other people think about you, a real legacy. I'll tell you where I got it. And I'm going to shorten this story, but my mother, first of all, is a person, but my dad taught us this about legacy. He didn't live long, and but he took us to the park one Sunday. We always went to church, but he always had to go to work Sunday afternoon, but he took us to a park one Sunday, and he sat over there under the shade tree while we're all running around playing, and he could whistle, put his fingers, and he whistled. The first whistle meant, I don't care if you're rounding third base in a kickball game, you had to stop. Second whistle meant come running, and we ran over there, and my sister beat me to the car, and then he set all of us on one of them big old concrete picnic tables of the era. He said, "Now, come here, sit down." He said, "What do you see?" "Daddy, it's getting dark." Now, what do you see? People are leaving. Yeah? What do you see? Well, none of us saw anything. He said, "I'll tell you what I see. I've sat over here all day and watched people trash this park. And it's awful. None of you go, Daddy, hush. None of you going anywhere until every piece of trash in this park is picked up. You understand?"
Wow.
Yes, sir. So here's 6 little Cutcliffes running around picking up trash. We filled up 3 of those big old, and these were dark green in this era. Those old 55-gallon oil drums, which I'm sure were surplus from World War II. But we filled up 3 of them. And then he set us back down. And his finger looked so giant. It was right near my face. He said, "Remember this now. When a Cutcliffe goes somewhere, you leave places and people better than you found them. And you better live by that standard." Yes, sir. Well, I never, thank goodness, forgot that. What a standard for all of us, whether it's a football program. And I love the word community, and I would encourage all folks in a community to take the same approach. That's how we make people and places better one day at a time. So
now the mom told him that money is the root of all evil.
Absolutely.
Especially what was the rest of the line?
Well, she just said, David, that's the root of all evil.
Yeah, but
No,
you came with
I'm the one that said
he
it.
responded.
I responded in my mind, not to her. Yeah, because we don't have any.
that got the biggest laugh of the night.
Well, Daddy had passed away in a wreck and wrecked our only car. She had never worked. We had a 5-room house with one bathroom and a lot of sharing. And this is graphic, but you could sit on the toilet and wash your hands, turn on the tub all at one time. And but
that was very graphic.
Well, it's too graphic.
Maybe.
But I was a little guy,
Yeah, right.
But it is it's the it is the lottery you want to win is the parent lottery. And that's the other way to build communities is families. And I'm not trying to preach to anybody, but when you're coaching and you're talking to young people that are going to be exceptional in communities, that's why I did it that way. That's what kept me focused on, you could fire me if you want to. You think we got to fire 6 coaches? No, I'm not doing that. We're doing the right things here. You just can't lose track on that.
David, you coached at a high academic institution at Duke here in Nashville. Clark Lee is trying to do some of the things that I think you did at Duke, but he's in the SEC, right? So that's a little bit more of a challenge. If you were to sit down and talk with Clark, maybe you have.
I have a good bit.
Well, you don't have to tell me what you told him, but what's your advice to him right now? Because they're trying, right? They're trying to do.
They're not trying. They are. They're doing.
They're doing.
There's a difference. People that don't believe that, I'm sorry. You better come to grips with it. He's a heck of a football coach. What I did tell him briefly is that focus on what you're doing out here on this practice field. One of the things you have to do, regardless of your record, is get better every day. Don't be discouraged by results. When the process is right, you feel it. And I shared a story about Apple. I have a friend that was there at the inception of Apple. They won. And I asked him, I said, I'm struggling at Duke, and we'd had 2 3-9, 3-9. I've never been 3-9 anything in my life, And said, okay, everybody in the world wanted to be the best technology company, not just this country, everybody in the world. Why you guys? And he chuckled. He said, let me tell you something. 10 years before the world knew we existed, we were having parties celebrating our success because we knew without a shadow of a doubt we were doing every little thing right. I said, Clark, do every little thing right. That's the only thing that you can control. And I'm a fan of his. I told my wife this earlier today. I thought it was going to be hard being in the SEC and being fair to everybody and loving them all, but I do. And I don't know how crazy that sounds to people, but I do. And I have such great respect for the people that do it right. And I ran into Dr. Lee, Clark's dad, who I met at practice.
So did we.
Who was with us for 2 hours yesterday.
Yes.
What a
He's
hoot
the best.
he is.
He's awesome.
He's the best.
But I told him, I said, I want to tell you a quick story I keep on my phone. That's a tribute to you, your son, but your grandson's picture is on my phone. And he's out there before a game stretching with the Vanderbilt team, which tells me everything I need to know about your son, Clark, and you. That's good
cool
stuff. And I don't know if people care. I don't care if you care, those of you listening. You should care. But if you don't, that's your problem.
Not ours.
I got one more. How much do you find yourself missing the game, or do you not really?
I miss the players of the game and the coaches. When things end abruptly for you, people don't realize that it's like tragic family loss. You're ripped from people that you love deeply, and then you don't get to see them suddenly again. It's hard. I had Chris Spencer, who lives in the area, who played for us at Ole Miss here today, just came, knew we were here. He didn't have credentials. I went down and, bulldozed him through the security. But that made my day. You know, I mean, but see, when we finished at Ole Miss, it was like, don't let the door hit your bottom on the way out of the building here and don't come back, you know, and that's literally what happens. So I miss that. The game of football, I will always respect more than any other game. It's the most interdependent game, player to player, that you can play without question. Not that the other games aren't great. I love to play in basketball and love to play in baseball even more. But I have great respect for the game. I do miss coaching quarterbacks, particularly when I see them doing so many things like, oh my gosh, I can't. Come on, man. You know, you can't do that, you know. And that's when I can't even do that at games. When I go in person, I have to do that very
You
much
find yourself
at home.
coaching it all.
Oh, Lord, yes. And my wife says, hush, you're not coaching anymore.
I'll always be coaching.
I love it. I'm
I
good.
think
George.
I will till I go to the grave, guys.
Thanks, Coach.
All right. Thank you all.
You want a great story on him?
I'd love it.
So